Okay, should be all set.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for, if you were here earlier, hearing our backstage chatter as we prepared for this wonderful webinar. And we're delighted that you are all here, whether you're here live with us today or listening to this information later in the recording. We're delighted that you're here. I'm Janice Weis, the Associate Dean and Director of the Environmental Law Program here at Lewis and Clark in Portland. And with me on the team is Assistant Director Tess Jacobsen. And the two of us serve as the main resources for the LLM and MSL programs. In addition, we have an amazing program coordinator, Delia Weedman, and she is our logistics glue that holds us all together. And she is also a member of our team who can answer questions and about your application and the program. So the three of us are delighted always to speak with potential students to talk about whether these programs we'll be discussing today are a good fit for you. We thought we would start with just a very basic overview of the two online programs that we're talking about today. And we're really delighted we've got an alum from each of these programs here with us today. Tess will introduce them in a little bit, but Patrick and Teri are going to be great resources for you on their experiences in these programs. The LLM program is for folks who already have a law degree or its equivalent outside of the US, so often an LLB, JD, an equivalent. So for somebody who's already got a law degree, maybe even is practicing law, not in a field related to environmental law or somewhat environmental law adjacent, and really wants to focus and enhance that professional area of their lives. The Master of Studies of Law, or MSL, is for students who don't want to go to law school, don't necessarily want to be a lawyer, but who would find some exposure to environmental, natural resources, and energy law and policy very helpful in their personal knowledge and their professional development. And we have found that to be a really fruitful graduate program for folks who want to advocate for the environment, but in a different way, in a different style than just the lawyer lane, so to speak. As you probably know, we have a great reputation in the environmental field. We're often ranked #1, if not in the top, of law programs for environmental law in the United States. And of course, the online format really works well if you have a full-time job, a family, other obligations that really don't allow you to come to Portland or even to study full-time. It's a very flexible program that can meet many different types of time that you might have. Just super quickly, so you have this vision of what we mean by these degree programs. We have here on the slide, I won't go into a bunch of detail, but we have on the slide the number of credit hours that are required for the program. So you can get a sense of when we're talking about our classes, what's the total that we're talking about. So US students complete 26 credit hours. International students get an extra 2 for a special prep class that we offer just to prepare those of you for study in the US. We also offer that to our MSL students. To give you a sense of what that means, most of our online classes are 3 credits. The list, of course, is there on that last bullet on the slide. Most of them are 3 credits. We'll talk more about the curriculum in a bit. And then we have some 1 credit and 2 credit classes. So just to give you that sense of perspective of the program. So Tess, I think that's next slide. Great. So obviously, return on investment is a very important part of making a decision about attending really any kind of educational program. So we thought it would be good to highlight what we are seeing in terms of some of the hiring trends for environmental law and policy. And Patrick and Teri can certainly give you their perspectives as well. The interesting thing about environmental law is, unlike some fields that really spike and drop and spike and drop, environmental law has been, since the 70s, when it became a thing in the United States and then internationally at different time frames, a very steady field of employment. And some areas of practice get more popular and less popular depending on what's happening in the real world. So, as all of you might imagine, increasing focus on ways that we can all work on climate change issues, whether that is actually working on renewable energy, traditional climate things, or the big effect for all of us is increasing resource scarcity, such as impacts to water supply, will affect a water policy or law practice. So that's connected, obviously, to many areas. And lots of innovation, lots of creativity is going into climate advocacy. We are seeing increased corporate and private sector opportunities as requirements increase for climate disclosures to be part of, for example, what the Securities and Exchange Commission is requiring of corporations. Environmental justice. Environmental justice has been around for a long time. It's a very important piece of environmental law and policy. And there have been some increased attention to how, particularly in certain regulations, we might imbue agency decisions with more intentional EJ issues. So lots going on in that field. Um, Given climate change, some of our traditional environmental laws don't necessarily fit every modern situation. So lots of opportunities to help redesign environmental regulations to really meet our modern challenges. And then it's just good to mention sustainability, which has its own interesting set of job opportunities. And we see that growing more and more. Companies want what they call compliance officers to embed within their company to help them really sort of walk the talk of any sort of environmental ethic they are seeking to increase. And I should just mention, as a broad matter, our LLMs and MSLs, they go into every sector of environmental law and policy. So lots of NGO work, lots of government work at the federal and state and local levels, and certainly private sector, and then internationally and all over the United States. You'll hear from Patrick in a bit. He's from Canada, and he can talk about that relationship as well. So that's just a quick overview of hiring. And again, we are happy to answer questions along the way. Put any questions you might have in the chat. We'll get those at the end. And we're going through a lot of material today, so do not hesitate to reach out at any time to ask us specific questions. So Tess, I'll turn it over to you.
Janice. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the return on investment and kind of build off of what Janice has said. So the programs, both the LLM and MSL programs, graduate choose this degree to either pivot into an environmental law field, which you'll kind of hear from Teri about how she used the degree to enter the environmental sector from a long career. And there's an additional benefit for the online program participants. So our online program is really designed for working professionals. So for people who are working full-time, caring for family members, you can do the program from anywhere in the world. There's a lot of flexibility with that. And along with that, it allows you to limit the amount of student loans you have to take out. And it's a lot of flexibility to do the coursework, the readings, and everything on the time that you want to, ultimately saving you time and money, hopefully. The program is going to provide you expertise in the field. So it is a way to show employers that you are committed to environmental sectors, that you have the knowledge to get these jobs, to work in these fields. You may already have some experience with your undergrad degree or volunteer experience. This degree can help, this master's in law or the master's in the study of law can help build on that expertise that you already have. And then you study and learn the environment, and that is allows for unparalleled flexibility, especially again in the online program. We offer opportunities to do in person too. If you ever want to come to campus, there's opportunities to always visit us in Portland, Oregon. And then there is another opportunity within the online program and within our degrees is to pay per credit. So this means that you are only charged for the credits that you take every semester. So instead of having a tuition that is billed, no matter how many credits you are taking, you have to pay the same amount of tuition every semester. This is a pay per credit system, so you can take as little as 1 credit. We offer some classes that are just 1 credit each semester, but most of our classes, as Janice mentioned, are 3 credits. So you're going to be paying just for those 3 credits or more if you want. Most of our students take about 2 years to go through the program. And then there's a lot of opportunities. I'm going to talk in just a minute to maximize your professional opportunities. So connecting with our alumni, like Patrick and Teri, connecting with our faculty. We have, top-ranked faculty in these fields. It's the same faculty who teach in our in-person programs. So there's a lot of opportunities to connect with faculty and to build on those relationships as well. Move to the next slide. So some of our alumni success stories, this is obviously a long list with a lot of text, but just to kind of build off of, again, what Janice mentioned, that we have people in every sector of environmental law. And this is just a few of our alums from both the MSL and the LLM program, working in the private sector, working for nonprofits, working in litigation, working for private practice, working as college professors or undergrad professors or even high school teachers. The program really does offer a very wide alumni community to build on those connections, to build on those successes, and to make those connections. And so this kind of, again, is just a sampling of what our alums have been doing. Our program has been around for many, many years. So this is even more is available on our website as well if you want to check out some more of those. And then our career services office. So we mentioned all these amazing jobs that you're able to get or that our alumni have gotten. And our career services office, it's kind of the way we approach it is we all help you find those opportunities. So whether that is our professors working with you, Janice and myself will work with you. And then we have an amazing career services office that is also going to help you find those amazing opportunities in whatever sector you want to join in. So they have mock interviews, there's opportunities to do resume and cover letter reviews. They meet with people over Zoom as well. So even if you are not in Portland, you can take advantage of the services that they offer as well. We also have a really large job database that you can access as a student to get unique opportunities that you might not find in other locations, because we have connections with a lot of environmental organizations, a lot of environmental sectors, and they let us know when they're looking for somebody because they want a Lewis and Clark alum. So that would all be posted in our job database, and it can be a really great resource. And I'm going to let Patrick and Teri introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about their time in the program, what they found helpful. So a little bit of an introduction. Teri Tracy is one of our MSL graduates who recently completed the program and now works as the Eastern Sierra Policy Coordinator for Mono Lake Committee. And then Patrick Canning, who is an LLM graduate, works as a Canadian lawyer and practices environmental and Aboriginal law for the past 13 years. So he has quite a bit of experience even outside of this program as well. So I'm excited to hear from him too. Patrick, do you want to start? Or Teri? Whichever one.
I'm happy to. Thanks. Yeah, so my name is Patrick Canning. I'm a lawyer in Canada, in British Columbia, so just up the west coast from Portland. I graduated law school in 2006, so ages ago, and had done certificates in environmental and international law as well, and then went into environmental practice. I worked in government for a little bit, worked on a land claim, and then I came out to British Columbia and started practicing private practice. And I initially did sort of criminal and general practice and slowly built an environmental law practice. By about 2014 or 15, it was mostly environmental law, but often as it overlapped with criminal law. And I taught undergrad in the criminology department in a local university a little bit in that regard. And then, well, I'll get to the other teaching experience later. So I had always, at the end of law school, actually in 2006, I applied for an LLM in the UK and got in, and then I just couldn't like get my act together and go. And I always wanted to do it, and I always had this kind of like, fantasy of like living abroad in some foreign city and studying there. And so in the interim of practice, I got married and had two children, and life was busy. And then in 2020, COVID came along, and everyone was learning online. And I kind of said to myself, like, why have I been holding on to this picture I had in my mind for so long when there are other options which make a lot more sense? So I started to look at those, and once I did, Lewis and Clark was really the obvious choice. Um, and so I applied and I got in, which I was super excited about and really grateful for. And the reason I went sort of ties in with what I got out of it, which I don't think I completely understood at the time. I knew I wanted to. But one of our courses, and please, if I am as a lawyer, I talk too much, so feel free to wave or mute me when my time is up, or what, whatever is necessary. In international wildlife law, I think I took as a summer course somewhere around the middle of my LLM. We looked at the IPBES report on endangered species, and one of the things they said was that we need transformative change, we need new ideas, and that was essentially that captured for me like what really drove me to do an LLM in another country, and in at a school with like a ton of expertise. And I knew that going in, but I didn't really see it until I was in the classes and meeting the profs and seeing, hearing them talk about how some Supreme Court case that we're discussing, they helped write the brief on, or whatever. And it's really stunning the level of experience and expertise and exposure to environmental law that you get at Lewis and Clark. And so I think that sums up what I went for, and it kind of sums up for me the most important thing I got out of it, which was exposure to new ideas and new ways of doing things, and exposure to other ways of doing things that other tools that other people have used that I hadn't thought about yet. Because essentially, as a lawyer in private practice, my job is solving problems, and the more ideas I have, the better. So what else I got out of it, as far as return on investment, so much. It's hard to keep it down to a few minutes, but I got a lot of great contacts. Again, the prof and staff, everyone who works at the school, really striking to me. I've worked at and been exposed to a number of universities, and people at Lewis and Clark have just been so kind and helpful and effective. Like, when you have some problem, like log me into some silly little thing or whatever, like it's just dealt with, which was just not like any other university experience I've ever had. And the contacts you keep, and profs and staff have sent me contacts that, put me in touch with people that they think might be interesting, have sent me work, have asked me professional questions that lead to other contacts. I've been able to ask profs for references for expert witnesses for litigation. So that's hugely valuable when you're in my line of work. It's also helped me sort of redirect my practice more towards climate law and climate litigation. It's allowed me to increase my rates. And I think that's kind of a soft thing when you're in private practice, but also if I were to go work at a university or for the government, there's you're up a bracket with masters, up a pay bracket, certainly within the provincial or federal government here. I think it also generates more respect from other lawyers and judges to have that higher degree. They assume you know what you're talking about, even when you're kind of making it up a little bit. And yeah, I think those are the main headings for kind of return on investment. I think, but to circle around, the biggest thing for me was just like opening my mind and professional circle to new ideas and new ways of doing things. So I guess just some final advice is, I think Lewis and Clark is a great choice, and the program's fantastic, and the people are amazing. And if people are doing that, just like dive in. I took it as slow as I could. I did one course per 3 credits per semester, and did the pay as you go thing, which was so helpful as since I was working and sort of paying my way as I went. And it allowed me to dive in fully to each course and to connect with the prof and connect with my fellow students as much as possible. I think that would be my closing advice.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that so much. And just a reminder, feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A box or in the chat, and we will get to those. So I will hand things over to Teri. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Teri Tracy, and I just graduated this month, so 2025, with the Master of Studies in Environmental and Natural Resources and Energy Law, so that's the MSL. I am currently the Eastern Sierra Policy Coordinator for the Mono Lake Committee in Lee Vining, California. So I live in Colorado, and I work both on site at Mono Lake and remotely. What drew me into being interested in the MSL is I was approaching retirement from my first career. So I knew I was a few years out from retiring after 3 decades in Colorado Judicial Department, working in the probation department in a number of different roles. And I was just exploring some options, and I took a Coursera class, like the free online courses. And there was a law professor on there, not from Lewis and Clark, but from somewhere else, who talked about the Mono Lake story and the public trust doctrine case of 1983. And I just want to say, like, leaping forward, it's just so weird and so amazing that I work for the Mono Lake Committee. I mean, yes, I pursued it, but that I'm actually doing it is amazing. But I learned about that case, and I thought, this is for me, but I don't want to get a law degree. And I started looking around, and I found Lewis and Clark. And the online format for me just made it possible. And was excellent. So possible, excellent. It requires a lot of writing. And I think that is a really excellent, for me, a really excellent way to process information and put it back out there. And so I really, really liked that piece. I worked the entire time throughout the program. I was also working full time. So that was important to be able to kind of space it out. And I always took one class at a time, except for a couple of exceptions. So I did want to say that I found the program to be more challenging than I expected. But looking back now, having finished my last final in December, it's so rewarding to realize how I rose to the occasion. So, I did have a moment of doubt early on, but I just like figured out how to do it. And I thought it was amazing. So, I think that can be a good question to ask during your investigation, but also realize that you might be better at this than you thought you were going to be. This MSL degree and being in the process of it has just opened a door for me. I did my internship at Mono Lake Committee in 2023 and got hired on early in 2024 as the policy coordinator, the Eastern Sierra policy coordinator. I just thought I might give you a taste of like a day in the life of my current job. It's just everything, but like one of the things that's it's almost just weird and uncanny how I can be doing a little bit of something in like every class that I can think of. So today I was in a relicensing for hydropower dam meeting. And I'm helping to coordinate the meeting, but I also I have to know enough about what's going on to be useful. And then, I'll then a different day I might be giving a naturalist tour at the lake itself and talking and doing outreach with the public and talking to them about the ecosystem and the policy and the court case, and people get really enthused about it. And then I might also go clean the bathroom because we're a small little organization, and so I'll greet visitors and people and welcome them into our gift store and our bookstore, and then clean the bathroom and take the trash out. So it is everything. But that's not just me. So everybody in that place is doing all of those things. So a piece of advice that I would give to students considering the online MSL is to reach out to current students or graduates, find them on LinkedIn, find them on the Lewis and Clark website, reach out to them. And I bet you every single one of them would be happy to connect with you and have a little phone call and talk to you about how the program was for them. That's already happened to me twice now, where people just contacted me kind of out of the blue on LinkedIn and we had a good chat about it. So I think that can be really helpful too. So I think that's kind of me answering those questions.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
I just want to thank you both. That was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, that was so great. I love hearing your stories and getting to connect with you too. It's great. So thank you so much for that. And again, we'll have time for questions at the end. So from both Patrick and Teri and myself and Janice too. So a little bit, I wanted to talk briefly about the application for those who might be interested or thinking about it. So a little bit about what we look for in our applicants. We do require that you be, for our LLM, we require that you be a graduate of a US or international accredited school. So in the US, that would be a JD. Internationally, that might be something like an LLB. For MSLs, you just need to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited US or international university. For both programs, we're looking for, excellent academic record, strong analytical and writing skills. We'll definitely help you with those skills and improving those skills as well. But as Teri mentioned, there's a lot of writing in the program. So we do, look for some strong writing skills as well. The most important thing, in my opinion, is a genuine interest in environmental, natural resources, or energy law. Whether that's a career transition, maybe you haven't dealt much with that yet, but your personal statement will talk, or your statement of interest will talk a little bit about why you want to pursue the degree. And that's what we're looking for, is that interest in this field and what you hope to get out of the degree. For the LLM, you don't actually have to be a member of any bar. So recent graduates, JDs who are just finishing their program are definitely welcome. Or if you just aren't a member of a bar, that is fine. And one thing for the MSL is, for both degrees, we don't require the LSAT or the GRE. So there's no standardized test required for admission. Briefly, and this is all available on our website as well. Some of the application requirements, we have an online application form for either the MSL or the LLM program. That statement of interest, the all-important statement of interest, which I mentioned, discusses your background and then why you're interested in the program and what you hope to get out of the degree. A resume, so a typical business resume, is totally acceptable. And then your unofficial transcripts from either your JD or LLB if you're applying for the LLM, or the bachelor's if you're applying to the MSL. Unofficial is totally fine for the application process. We won't ask for your official transcripts until you're admitted and starting the program. We also request 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. And these letters should speak to your ability to succeed in a graduate level program. So from supervisors, whether that work supervisors, volunteer supervisors, coworkers, professors, all great to get letters of recommendation from those people. For MSL applicants, we do require a writing sample. This is often something that maybe you got wrote in undergrad, or maybe a work product that you're able to submit. And it should be about 5 to 7 pages, but doesn't have to be environmental in nature. So don't think that you need to write something special for it or anything. An old piece of writing sample would be totally sufficient. And then for international students, we do require a TOEFL score of 100 or an IELTS score of 8. Or other evidence of English fluency. So having undergrad in English, things like that, are sufficient usually as well. If you are interested or want more information, the application deadline for a fall start, which is August, is April 1st. US students, I encourage you to apply for FAFSA if you plan to as soon as possible. But we do offer tuition awards that are based on merit and need as well. So if anyone is interested in those, reach out to us and we can send you the form for that as well. With that being said, I think we are ready for any questions.
So as Tess has said, if you've got questions, pop them into the chat or email us with any questions that you might have. And I know that Patrick and Teri are both happy to be resources as well. Because I know so many of you will be listening to this on the recording, and just for benefit of folks here, I thought it would be helpful to flag a few frequently asked questions that we get fairly routinely that might be helpful to know. And actually, I'm going to pose this one to you, Patrick and Teri. One question we get, often phrased in many different ways, but the essence of which is, I am already so busy. I have fill in the blank, millions of things going on in my life. How do I fit in study time, and how do I fit this in my busy life? And Patrick, I know that you took one class at a time, and that probably worked well for you. But both of you, how did you find the time? How did you structure your days or your weeks to really make it work for you?
I can speak to that first. Well, that for me, as I said, I was taking one class at a time, and that seemed to be kind of key while working full time. I also tended to burn the midnight oil, and that seemed to be my most productive time. I always said that I would like do some things in the morning, but that didn't happen. But and this isn't quite to your question, Janice, but for me, I was on the computer for work, and then kind of switching over and being on the computer for that much longer. So for me, that was a thing to kind of manage, about making sure that I was getting up, walking around, getting exercise, like seeing other people and kind of managing it that way, because it's a lot of screen time. Got new glasses and but I guess what I'll say is, like, I think it's probably always going to feel like you don't have time to do something like this. And my spouse has been a really good inspiration for me in this, because he said it's never going to feel like the right time, but once you finally start, then you're going to get to the place where you're done and you're going to say, I did that. But if you never start it, then you'll never get there. And I mean, I know that's obvious, but that really is a thing, is to just kind of figure out where you're going to put it in there.
Patrick, anything to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Totally. And I just want to say first, before I answer the question, Teri, your job sounds really cool. And you actually get to go outside. Like, wow. Um, yeah, a little bit envious. So to the question though, yeah, when I started, I had children who were then 2 or 3 and 4 or 5, I forget exactly, in that range. So 2 little kids in the house, and it was busy, and running a business and whatnot. Um, I and Teri sort of alluded to this. I know, like, my first school experience, not university, I went to a technical forestry school for law school. And it was this really old-fashioned school. And their school motto was pressure turns coal into diamonds. Yeah, yeah. It had a 50% dropout rate. But I think, that lesson, I think I knew it was going to be a lot to take on. I also knew that I could manage it somehow, and I knew that it would make me more efficient. And ultimately, as a lawyer out there working in private practice, as the years go by, your hourly rate goes up. And one of the reasons I always explain to people that is that you're more efficient, you're more effective, and the degree really forced me, juggling all those things, forced me to become more efficient and effective in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise. So that was another benefit that I took away from it. It was tough at times. It was stressful, or you're tired sometimes, but it's so worth it. And like Teri also said, if you put it off to the perfect moment, well, you might be 85 when you start. So.
That's great. What a great philosophy from both of you. Thank you. Another question that we often get is what classes we offer, and we had a slide with a few of our classes, and all of our classes are on the website. And we do, in fact, a whole separate webinar on our curriculum. But just for purposes of those of you, who want to know what kinds of environmental classes do you offer, I'll just run through our list. Tess, help me not forget anything. What we have done for the online programs is we've curated a list of classes that we think are the most useful for a future advocate, whether that be an MSL or an LLM. And we are always looking to add, change, freshen up the curriculum as modern issues, become more important. So the classes that we currently offer are administrative law and environmental law. Those are 2 required classes, unless as an LLM, you had them in your law degree program. And then we have a nice mix of energy, natural resources, and pollution classes. We have ocean and coastal law, wildlife law, natural resources law and science, hazardous waste law, international environmental law, water law. Am I missing anything, Tess? I think that's the main run through. We also offer a class that I teach called Emerging Topics, which is a fun grab things from the headlines that are happening around the world in environmental law, that really gets interactive and just takes on the issues of the day. That's a fun exchange of information kind of class. And environmental justice is another one that's on our list, obviously a key element, as I mentioned earlier. And then we are soon to add a couple of classes, but one that's coming up fairly soon in the next cycle is an environmental impact assessment class, basically NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act issues, and then international counterparts. So we'll be having a class on that. We are also moving more intentionally, for obvious reasons, into climate and energy courses. So that gives you an overview of the curriculum. By the way, Patrick and Teri, as alums, you can audit any class that you want for the rest of your life for free. So don't hesitate to reach out to us on that.
That is a good reminder. Thank you.
continuing education, right? So another question we get is what is an online program like? For many of you who are listening to this, you have experience in online learning in many capacities, but for some of you, this may be a new experience. So basically, the classes are set up so that each module, each piece of the class will have a lecture, a pre-recorded lecture by the professor, accompanied by some readings. And so you'll listen to the lecture, and that is really on your own time within a certain time frame. There's an opening date for a module and a closing date. But within those two dates, it's up to you and your schedule to listen to that recording and do the readings. And then there's a discussion question or a quiz that asks you to respond to the material. And then you exchange information and get to see posts by your classmates and reply and connect with your classmates that way. I mentioned that because that is what helps an online program where you can sometimes feel all alone in cyberspace. It really helps remind you that there are other people doing this with me, and they are in my class and they are reading my posts. I'm seeing what they're thinking. And it really enlivens an online class experience to have those moments to exchange thoughts. In addition, we have found that as a learning tool, requiring a quiz or a post to a question really helps assure that you have understood the material that you just read or listened to. And we found then that students were keeping up with the material all through the semester and then better prepared for the exam or final paper at the end. And frankly, that's just a better adult learning model rather than lots of information and then sort of pulling it all together at the end. So as a pedagogical matter, we are really finding adult learners really respond well to that kind of format. The final question that we frequently get, and Tess, you may have some to toss in, and this got mentioned a couple of different times, but some folks would really benefit from some practical experience in the environmental field as part of this program. Some students come to us with vast environmental experience or some, or even a job that they are looking to enhance, like Patrick, and an externship. It's often called an internship in other contexts. Law schools call them externships. Same idea. You're doing a work for a placement. And it can be very beneficial for folks who want to move into a different area of practice or who need some practical skills on their resume. So we make that a part of this program for students who want to do part-time work for an NGO or government entity or private sector entity. We can arrange those so that you can apply that work as credit towards your degree. So I mention that just because I think that helps with the return on investment question that if you need that practical experience, we help facilitate that for students. So Tess, any frequently asked questions that you would toss into the mix?
I think the only thing that I would make sure to mention is just the intro course when we were talking about the curriculum for our MSL and international LLMs who aren't from a common law country. I think the intro course, it's an introduction to U.S. environmental law and legal studies course, is really designed to help you enter a law school classroom. As Teri mentioned, it's a very challenging program, and part of that is because you are in upper level JD classes with JD students, LLM, MSL students. So the intro course is designed to kind of help introduce you to a law school environment, what some terminology you might come across, like what is outlining, a little bit about writing. We cover a lot in a short time period in that class, but I just wanted to make sure to highlight that too, because we try not to toss you off the deep end if you've never had this experience before, and then we're always available as well.
Great. Thank you, Tess. Well, Patrick and Teri, anything final you wanted to say? You don't have to, but I wanted to just give you that minute if you wanted to say anything. I do, again, encourage interested students to reach out to us. The emails for the two programs are here on this final slide. And we're happy to chat with you about whether either of these programs is a good fit for you. And like Teri has said, connect you with alums who can give you their perspective. Anything final, Teri or Patrick? Yeah, Teri, go ahead.
I wanted to say that you know, you talked about the format of the courses, but there is quite a bit of involvement, like live involvement during the course that's available to you. Live Zoom meetings, study reviews, that kind of thing with the professor, and those really make the experience a lot richer. And I would recommend taking advantage of them when possible. And that is really a nice feature.
Great.
That I don't
Thank you.
think we
Thank you,
mentioned.
Teri. Yes, I didn't mention that. And thank you. That's actually really important, right? Because then you realize there are people, they're here with me, literally. So thank you, Teri, for that addition. Great. Well, thank you again, Patrick and Teri, for joining us. And we certainly look forward to hearing from any of you who are interested in this program. Thank you very much. And we will wrap up now. Thank you.
Thank you.